The Knight Foundation recently awarded 6 innovative companies with more than $1.37 million in grants for their endeavors in media advancement. While each of the winners has the ability to significantly impact all media going forward, one startup that is particularly intriguing is called Behavio. This startup began as an open source project at the MIT Media Lab FUMF and developed into an open source project that turns phones into smart sensors of consumers' real-world behavior. The idea is that the phone will become much more than a communication device and actually be used to not only help journalists discover trends, but also be used to build tools that could help in other industries as well. So at this time, we're happy to be joined by Nadav Aharony, the co-founder of Behavio and who is also a product manager for Google's Android team. Thanks for being with us today, Nadav.
Hi, thank you.
You're very welcome. Well, first of all, tell us how this project began at MIT and then really developed into Behavio.
So this project started as part of the research, my PhD research at the MIT Media Lab, which was done together with Professor Sandy Pentland, who's leading the Human Dynamics Research Group. And Sandy is one of the pioneers in mobile computing, wearable computing, and mobile sensing in general. And over the last few years, the group has been doing a lot of research in turning mobile phones into sensors and trying to use them to understand humanity in the real world, not necessarily what we're doing just online, which is pretty easy to log.
Right.
So we built the original software to actually do a study in a new methodology that we're calling the social MRI. So you can imagine, like in the medical world, we can diagnose a human being as they live inside sort of an imaging chamber, but we can actually diagnose different diseases and actually understand how the human body works. We're trying to do the same to a community. So we actually handed out 150 phones to a community using our logging software and with their consent, of course, and actually looked at in a virtual imaging chamber that is constructed by data from the phones. We can actually look at how a community lives their lives and how an organic community lives and how friendships are formed and how people make decisions in life. And that was sort of the basis to sort of in our endeavor to try to understand humanity and to revolutionize sort of the social sciences. We developed these technologies. And then we decided that we want to actually let others, take this into the world and do other things with the same technology. So we decided to open source it rather than have others rebuild the same type of technology over and over again.
Wow. Well, yeah, I want to get into a little more how the technology actually works. I mean, how does the software essentially learn the behavior of the users to become a sensor?
Sure. So our mobile phones, especially the smartphones, as we all know, can do a lot of things.
Right.
They can get our location. They have an accelerometer that can sense, when you rotate the device, but it can also sense in your pocket. It can be used to count steps and sense the movement. So it's very easy to see if the phone is lying on the table or in your pocket and whether you're running or walking or in a car, just based on the shaking of the phone. These are just two signals. It also has temperature sensors and other types of physical sensors, like a barometer, so you can even get the height. But there are also other types of signals you can tap into that are not considered traditional sensors, like the fact that the screen is on or off, the fact that the phone is plugged into power or not, the fact that the user is what apps the user is installing or using. All of these can be used as sensors to understand the person better. You can actually see when they operate the phone and when they don't, and what they're doing when they're with the phone. And it's very easy to start combining all these signals together to make more interesting inference. So let's say I plug the phone in and it's flat and it's dark, the light sensor senses that it's dark, and maybe I also set my alarm clock a few minutes before. You can start safely assuming that I'm going to bed, for example.
Right.
And especially if you know if I'm home, right? Or in a hotel or somewhere else. So starting to combine all these signals is starting to give us the ability to do more interesting understanding of people, make our apps more interesting, and do other functionality that was much harder to do in the past.
Absolutely. Well, what is it that really makes Behavio different, though, from a social network like Facebook or Twitter, and especially like geolocation apps that do some of these aspects, but not all of them?
So first of all, with Behavio and the open source project that started this, which was called FUNF, we're trying to be a platform. We're not trying to make all of the different apps. We're trying to make it easier for others to innovate. So one person might do a medical innovation with it to study the progression of a disease or something like this. Another person might do a fun game. Another person might do a social-related app. Now, one of the interesting things about the phone that makes it a bit different than just doing things on a social network is we can actually sense physical presence and co-location of people. So for example, we reappropriate some of the sensors or some of the devices on the phone or the chips on the phone to do other things. For example, there's the Bluetooth, right? And we know that we can use Bluetooth to listen to to music via wireless headsets or keyboards, but the Bluetooth can actually sense other devices around it. And if the device is a phone, for example, and if the phone is running the similar software, we can actually detect that two people are co-located, they're face-to-face to each other. Suddenly, you can construct the face-to-face network of people, which is much more meaningful than maybe the online social network of friends and strangers that I might have approved on Facebook. This is the people I'm actually spending physical time with, so it makes it much more relevant. Now, location is sort of the beginning of this. Location, if you can think about it, is a single signal. And we can see how many interesting apps and applications we can have uses to the signal of location. When we talk about behavior, think about adding almost an infinite amount of new signals and new inferences to this location to make everything much more smarter.
Well, this really is a fascinating concept, but it's also a little bit unnerving, just given its ability to predict and know its users so well. So what do you say to the people who are hesitant about such technology, and really what about privacy implications here?
So we really believe in giving the power to the end users. So everything is done with the consent and agreement of the end user, and also we're embedding in the framework a lot of privacy preservation techniques that maybe, if a startup wanted to develop an app really quickly, they might not have thought about all these specific measures. For example, we're not saving any human readable text. We're not logging names or phone numbers at all. We're encrypting them in a one-way encryption that would allow us to make scientific inference on it, but you will never know what number was dialed or what is the name of the person. But you can still know that the same person was dialed to 5 or 10 times, which is interesting enough to make the inference. So this is baked into the framework, and if a developer wants to use this, by default, we're trying not to leak any of the user's information. As an example.
That's very good to know. Well, as I mentioned earlier, Behavio was among the winners of the Night News Challenge, and has been said that it will change the future of journalism. So how do you see this actually happening?
So, like I said, Behavio is a platform, and there are multiple directions that you can take it. And in the sense of journalism, it can redefine different aspects of what journalism means. So, first of all, it can help contribute to existing type of journalistic work. So, for example, we discussed the metadata that the phone can collect. So today, if you think about a journalist or just anybody taking a picture in a demonstration, let's say, and usually the data that's attached to it is just the location. It was the time that it was taken and the location it was taken. And we can actually look at maps where see geotagged photos. Think about all this metadata that I described before that you can collect on a person or on the context of the device attached to the picture. So immediately when you take a picture, you can actually get the route that the photographer took, what they were doing at the time, where they're running, sitting in a car. You can actually sense other devices, other people, other things in their environment, which could be used to enhance the meaning of that picture. You can actually sense who was with them, what they were doing before and after. And you can do this collection continuously. So before you know there's an interesting event happening, you're already logging this type of context. Then you snap the picture and you record the context with the picture. That's one example. Other people around that can actually corroborate that story because they sense the same type of environmental things, so you can actually accurately place the picture where it was taken. Another example is, what is the meaning of news? So, today a news story is usually done by a journalist or a single journalist, but you can actually imagine thousands of people donating anonymous data about their behavior into some sort of city dashboard or a journalistic dashboard, and immediately, if something happens in that community, you can detect the change in routine. So, for example, if you can detect that people are stuck in traffic, you can detect that people are running fast from somewhere. You can detect if you go to more advanced things, you can detect how people are happy or people are changing their daily routine. So you can now start thinking about a story as the aggregate result of many people together.
That's really very, very cool. You mentioned healthcare and your sort of vision there earlier, but talk a little bit more about the bigger picture, how you really see this where you really see this leading going forward.
So we think that understanding behavior is going to become something very natural that will become part of our devices. The same way that location is something that's very natural today, and many apps are leveraging this to make much more intelligent services, and users can actually look at their lives and look at where they spent their time. We think that this type of behavior will have, I think in the future, we'll have sort of interesting black boxes or that detect different types of behavior, from detecting the flu to detecting happiness to detecting friendships or recommending friendships, or you can think about dating applications because people are behaving just like me,
Sure.
based on real behavior, not on what they write down in a survey.
Wow.
So the point is we're trying to create this framework to allow many other people to donate and develop these. Maybe eventually there'll be marketplaces for these, just like there's an app store, there might be an algorithm store kind of, that then people or developers could make together to build smarter apps much faster.
So this is really just the tip of the iceberg.
Yes, it's really just beginning.
Wow, this is very exciting. Well, should we expect to see an Android app specifically for this soon?
So we've just won the Knight Foundation's award, and this is just sort of launching the company as a company. We'll keep developing the open source framework and working on several interesting new apps and services that hopefully will come out in the next few months, which will be tagged with Behavio, and hopefully people will enjoy them and give them new things that they couldn't do before.
Absolutely. Well, we will stay tuned and look forward to it. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome. With this WebPro News Report, I'm Abby Johnson.